for more on the ongoing Ukraine-Russia conflict, we're joined by Aurel Braun. He is a professor of international relations and political science at the University of Toronto. Welcome back to the program. We appreciate it. A year ago, into the fighting, Russia now is making it clear that it is digging in its heels, and at the same time, the United States is really leading a push to further punish Russia with more economic sanctions. So 365 days into this, where do we stand right now, Aurel?
The war is continuing. The loss of life is horrific. The Ukrainian economy has been very badly hit. Russia is conducting a total war against Ukraine, going after infrastructure, and Ukraine needs money just to continue to have a functioning economy. They need $4 to $5 billion every month. But rebuilding that economy will be very costly. But if it is rebuilt the proper way, it could be a model economy, something that Vladimir Putin fears, that actually a successful independent Ukraine could present an alternate model of development, political and economic, to what he's running inside Russia.
Well, let's look at where we are now as well, because as we heard in Owen Fairclough's very thought-provoking story, I think NATO forces are reacting to pleas from Ukraine President Zelensky by providing more armor, including tanks. Do you think that this is going to perhaps further fuel concerns that the fighting could expand?
This has been a concern throughout, and naturally in any conflict, it is important to be cautious. But being cautious is very different from being timid and being deterred in having an active policy rather than a reactive one, in helping to restore territory that was taken illegally. And the red lines that were threatened or claimed by Vladimir Putin have proven to be ephemeral. Remember the nuclear threats that he made against Finland and Sweden if they chose to apply for membership into NATO. They did. They defied Russia. And so this kind of saber rattling is not a sign of strength. It is a sign of weakness. Now, sanctions do not do the job by themselves. They have to work together with effective military organization as well as an effective military campaign. But the sanctions are beginning to be more biting and more effective because the West is learning more about how to apply them in a better way.
Let's talk about what China is offering, because that appears to be perhaps the brightest light, at least at this point. China weighing in, offering what it calls a plan for a ceasefire. And President Zelensky is cautiously embracing the idea, saying he will wait for the details. What do you think?
He obviously, this is President Zelensky, does not want to have bad relations with China. He is not enthusiastic about the plan because this plan by China does not start with the premise that Russia was the aggressor. A ceasefire in place would mean that Russian forces keep territories that they have occupied, not just Crimea, but territories they have occupied since the invasion in February of last year, though Ukraine has taken back slightly more than half of that. So this is a careful choreography where the Ukrainian president doesn't want to say no, but at the same time he has indicated that he cannot negotiate with Vladimir Putin because Vladimir Putin has been dishonest throughout, is unreliable, and the speech that Vladimir Putin made this Wednesday is really a very scary speech, because what he said was that we in Russia are trying to restore the historical borders of Russia. Well, that would mean, whether you take the Soviet era or the Tsar's era, all of Ukraine would have to become part of Russia. It's very difficult to negotiate when the other party chooses to deny your right to exist.
Okay, so Ukraine today saying it's marking this year as a year of invincibility, a year of resiliency, bravery, and pain. You talked about Russian President Vladimir Putin. How is he viewing this solemn anniversary? Because I also want to point out, you talked about him sort of rattling the saber, if you will, but he has once again indicated he could put nuclear submarines back in play in this as well. So if he's backed into a corner, should the world be concerned?
Anytime anyone makes a nuclear threat overt or subtle, it is important to pay attention. But at the same time, there's a reason why there's something called nuclear deterrence. This is what happened in the Cold War, when the West and the Soviet Union were facing each other in a kind of balance of terror. The Soviet Union was a superpower. Russia is not. Vladimir Putin has no interest in having a nuclear war that would devastate Russia. What would be left in Russia? What would he be defending? He's not some fanatical theocrat looking for a reward in an afterlife. He wants to stay in power, enjoy his wealth, and his cronies want to enjoy their wealth as well. So caution is in order. Intimidation, the prevention of helping Ukraine, the prevention of moving towards a meaningful negotiated solution, that would be another matter.